You're listening to The Real Fan Review with Hav, Sanj, Al, and B.
What's going on, podcasters and YouTubers? This is Hav here, one of your hosts from The Real Fan Review. Today with me, we got Brandon Burr, sir.
Javier, sir.
We got the unimaginable man in the chair, Al.
How's it going, everybody?
And as you can see from the names, we're going to talk Hamilton today, people. So we're going to go into a really quick, spoiler-free, because how do you not spoil Hamilton? Brandon, what did you say? It's in the history books?
It's in the history books already. I don't know if you guys knew, but back in 1771, we went to the Revolutionary War. I don't know if you know.
Brandon, spoiler alert. Yes. Oh, man. So we're going to do the Hamilton review. We'll do a quick, like I said, spoiler free for the people who didn't get a chance to watch it on Disney Plus just yet. And then we'll go into it completely. And then we'll go right into our top 10 movies. I don't think we've ever done this. We've never talked about our top 10 movies. So I don't know what Al's top 10 is. I don't know what Brandon's top 10s are. So we'll get right into it right away.
Pretty sure he knows.
All right, so we'll get right into this now. So let's go with a quick spoiler-free review. Brandon, our music aficionado for the show, you created the ending music, which used to be our beginning music. Give me something about Hamilton, Brandon, spoiler-free.
Hamilton, incredible. Listen, this is music theater. If you have never seen a Broadway show, I think no better time than this one. Especially, and even if not, if you're a fan of hip-hop, reggae, rap, whatever it may be within those genres, you're definitely going to like the music of this show. If you're into history, you're going to love the show. And if you're into a really awesome story, you're going to love this show. I don't know what to tell you. If you hate the show, go read a book. I don't know.
Al, man, I know you just watched it this morning, man. Talk to me. How did you leave Hamilton?
You know, the surprising part, and I know B mentioned it last week about it, that it had the hip hop music and that kind of vibe to it. But prior to that, I never knew that it had that aspect. I knew that it had minority casting, but that was it. I mean, my clients would rave about this performance, this show, that it was something I needed to go see. So I knew of it as this big major Broadway hit that everybody kept talking about. But for some reason, I never caught on to that aspect of the play.
Right.
And watching it with that feel, it made, for lack of a better way of expressing it, it just made a lot of the content more relatable.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it almost made it sound like they were talking about current times, even though you knew that this was talking about, obviously, Alexander Hamilton and a man from history. But a lot of it felt relevant. Now, I don't know if he intentionally did that. I'd have to look into it to see if that was his purpose.
We get the job done.
Yeah. There was a lot of jabs and comments like that. So, I'm sure he's trying to do it, but not having heard any of that context, not having heard any of that complaint, because especially in this atmosphere, I'm surprised that I hadn't heard that. But I was definitely pleasantly enjoyed, as I commented to you before, seeing the runtime. I was like, wait, what?
Right.
But at the end, I was like, wait, they're doing a certain scene. That means we're near the end. I was like, what? Yeah, man, it was definitely worth one of those if you watching it and going through that time. You're not going to feel the time, but it was definitely worth going through all that time.
Absolutely, man. And listen, for myself, I think this movie is incredible. It is not only entertaining and educational, it is revolutionary. I just think that because of this show, things are going to change. Oh, you get it. I think it's a great show. Again, for people who don't really like Broadway shows, this may be your entrance into Broadway shows right there because it's so entertaining. Listen, me and the wife, we don't really go to Broadway shows too often. Not huge fans of musicals and people singing for no reason, right? You just walk into a room and it's hello, so so to see the way that they did this show and this production, it's just absolutely incredible. If I could just tell everyone, please just go watch Hamilton. That is going to be our spoiler-free review because there's no way we can talk about this movie or this Broadway show without spoiling. So Guys, we're going to give you the count of 5 to get on out of here. Go to Disney Plus and watch it. Me, Brandon, and Al are going to ruin this shit. And we're going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hamilton.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Thrown away my shot.
You're not throwing it away. You're not going to throw it away.
Yeah, and knowing how his life ended, I didn't realize that's what they kept referencing with that phrase.
Mhm.
I didn't like what he does in the duel. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know that that's what that was called.
Right.
Throwing away the shot, like, because he shot in the air, he never shot at Burr.
Right.
So like the
Same
fact
thing he
that
told
they,
his son to do, you know?
yeah. So it like
Crazy.
after the show, and I read about it and found out that that's what that phrase meant. It put that chorus into a whole new context.
There's
Right.
so many parallels throughout the show and all the songs from the beginning to end, all the illusions. And when you see them at the end of the show, you're like, oh, I get it.
It's actually incredible. And what I have to say is with this type of movie, the way that they did it, right? I almost feel like, I don't know about you guys, but I personally want to see it live now. You know,
If I can
after
afford it, yeah.
after watching, because I get the camera angles and what they're doing, but I think there's nothing like being there in person to watch this show. And
Yeah.
you know, again, my wife has been like, "Oh my God, we have to see this." You know, I'm gonna watch this thing again on Disney Plus this week, maybe even tonight. Brandon saw it 3 times.
But
It's
you're
incredible.
completely right. Like if you are blown away, even if you just mildly enjoyed it by watching it here, understand that compares nothing to being in that theater.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy part is like I was blown away by this production. I know I'll be like crying if I was actually sitting in Richard Roger Theater. You know, like,
And I kind of want to see it again to see things that obviously I missed. One scene that comes to mind as an example of what I'm talking about is I forget at what point of the performance it is, but it's Hamilton singing about being in the middle of a tornado and how quiet it
in
is.
the eyes of a hurricane.
Everything is quiet. Yeah.
Yes.
But what I didn't realize was because I was so focused on him, I didn't realize that everybody around him was acting as if there was a tornado.
Right.
Everybody's running around with pieces of the office, the desk. A person is actually held
And they're
sideways.
using the round.
Yeah, and they're going around,
Yeah.
and then they bring everything back at the end. I was like, and it wasn't until they started bringing everything back at the end that I realized what they had been doing. So it
Right.
made me realize, like, what other symbolic moves were they doing around the actors to reinforce
Absolutely.
the scene that I missed? So,
Oh,
like,
there's a
that's
lot.
another. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I must have missed a lot. So I want to
got
listen
you.
to it just for that.
I want to make sure I get everything because when the show first started, I didn't know that it was like with rap verses and a lot of lyrics in between. So I'm sure I missed some lyrics. I missed some things because at first I'm like, I couldn't keep up. I'm like, wait, what? I kept pausing it, asking my wife, or we would ask each other questions like, what was just happening? You know, because you didn't get into the flow of everything right away. But then as you kept going and catching on, guys, there's a couple of songs on there. The song where I think it's Angelica Schuler. She's talking
Skylar,
about
yeah.
being the maid of honor, or Skylar. She's the maid of honor.
Satisfied. Yeah, satisfied.
And in that song, she rewinds time,
Rewind. Rewind.
Yo, that was sick.
and they've rewound it and the Broadway show like as part of the show, like showing you moments that you didn't see in a different angle from what you saw before. I'm like, this is a Broadway show doing some movie shit. Like, what is this? This is insane.
That other point of view was awesome, right?
It's just insane, you know. You're never satisfied. All this stuff. Another thing that got me going. I'm huge. I used to rap when I was young. I thought I was gonna be a rapper. The battles, the congressional battles,
The cabinet battle.
the cabinet battles, 1 and 2. I'm over there like they first of all they line up in front of each other with the microphones, and it's like a rap battle, but it's usually what they were talking about, you know.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Listen, just for those moments alone, again, satisfied, the cabinet battles, and oh my God, A Quiet Night in New York, or I think A Quiet.
It's quiet in Uptown.
It's Quiet in Uptown.
Oh, good.
Jesus Christ, dude!
It's one of
You
my
know
favorites.
a movie or a Broadway show gets to you when you got to do this, dude. You got to, yeah, you gotta take out those little dusties because they're causing water to come down your eyes. It's not crying. Not crying.
Yeah.
It's Dusty's.
It's dusty.
Oh shit, I got that Dusty again.
Al, talk to me, man. You're the most recent one to see this. Did any actor stand out for you in this
Um,
Broadway show, in this movie
the
here?
guy playing Washington, I thought he did a
Yes.
good job.
Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know him because I watched. There's a show he's on that I watch on. I think it's CBS. And he caught me there. Like he's a good actor there, but I didn't know
Yeah, he could
that
sing
he.
like that.
Yo, I didn't
Jeez.
know he can act like that. Like, I mean, granted, no, the show he's on, it's not like he's one of these super dramas. I watch it because it passes the time and it's a good.
Right.
I think it's a cool show. I like all the actors; they do good performances. But like, he does a good performance on the show. He's one of the reasons why I like the show.
Yeah.
But to see him like that and act like that and perform like that, sing like that,
Oh,
yeah, it just gave me another level of respect for him as a performer.
absolutely.
And then it just made me start focusing on everybody else. The character that plays Jefferson, I thought he did a good job.
Yeah,
Like
I mean, dude.
Yeah.
singing wise, performance wise, just acting wise. Like when they go into the letter and he reads why he was paying the guy, he goes every time. I don't know how he had to have said it a few times, but he goes, "What?"
Yeah, man.
And they were like, "Yo, we thought we had him on some corruption stuff. He's what?" Like, yeah, it made history seem funny and relatable at the same time. Meanwhile, you're talking about people that were around that founded this country. You would think that there was going to be this serious tone and everything, and it was just the even the guy playing Burr.
Leslie Odom Jr.
Leslie Odom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the actress that played Angelica.
Yes.
I've seen
Renee
her.
Elise.
She's been in a couple of things. Like her performance, her singing, like everybody's performance was just incredible.
Yeah.
And it was like it makes you, and it's funny. It made me remember. Oh Jesus, I'm drawing a blank on his name. The one that made the distinction between Marvel not being movies because they weren't theater.
Oh, yeah. The guy who made the
Yeah,
Irish.
because they weren't cinema. Scorsese.
Yeah.
Yeah, that he made that distinction between the Marvel movies because they weren't actual cinema, and I was ashamed because for a split second he made me. I felt like this is on another level. Granted, it's just a filming of a live performance of a Broadway show, but to your point, like the way they were doing things, I felt like I was watching a movie. Like I
Right.
really thought that rewind scene was like it. It couldn't have. I felt like they couldn't have done better if this was a movie like that actually just rewound the scene and now you're seeing it from her point of view. Like it
Right.
was to me, it felt like it was on that same level, and it made me realize that to a certain degree, it's about how you feel from a scene more so than how well they did it on screen.
Absolutely, man. And Brandon, how about
Yeah,
you,
man.
man? Anybody stand out for you besides all these guys that Al mentioned? But I think Al hit it on the head with a bunch of them.
I would say, I mean, honestly, like, those are our standouts. Lin-Manuel, he did great. He killed it. I would say, to be the most honest, he seems like the less vocally versed as everyone else, but my God, did the man hold it down?
Yes,
That at one point
yes.
at the beginning of the show, he sang 4 songs in a row, and that spanned 20 minutes. Between singing and dancing, going back and forth with Burr and, in the group, and it was like, I'm after 5 minutes of me singing. I'm like, let me get some water. I got to stop for a second.
Right,
20
right.
straight minutes. Another standout for me is Anthony Ramos. He played John Lorenz and Philip. Just be like his charisma, his sarcasticness, it just came through so great, especially going into Satisfied,
Right.
going into Satisfied. Like him just starting off the scene with that laugh and the cackle and everything. Like I'm laughing in my seat for no reason. and he got me really excited for the In the Heights movie. Because before
Right.
I wasn't so like pumped about In the Heights. Like I liked the show, I thought it was really cool. That's one of Lin-Manuel's shows as well.
Right.
And
That's one of his
like
first of the
after
things.
seeing him in Hamilton, I now have a whole new respect for him, and I can't wait to see him in the Heights now.
Yeah, actually, all those actors now. As soon as the movie ended, I looked up, where are these people? How come they're not famous? Right? Like, And I'm going to tell you one you guys didn't mention that almost stole the damn show, and he only had about maybe 10 minutes of screen time. And that's Jonathan Groff, King George.
King George
Da
III.
da 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 da
Yeah.
da
I mean,
da
I mean
da.
that guy doesn't need screen time. He was in both Frozens. Like he don't need no more screen time. He got too much money.
Dude, his songs, the way he sang them,
Buddy.
he was just hilarious. I get that he didn't write those words, but he performed the words like they were his own. And
Yeah, man.
wow, man, he had maybe 10 minutes of stage time, and he
Yeah.
killed it.
Yeah. I forgot which song. I think it was the one with the da 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 da, where he sings a part so powerfully, a bunch of saliva. And I'm not saying this to make
Oh, because
fun.
he was
It just,
forceful. Yeah,
so, like a huge amount of
the second
saliva
song,
came out
yeah.
of his mouth.
yeah.
And I'm like, but he didn't flinch. He didn't react. He was still in character performing. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Because
yeah.
I would
like whether they
they
like I think unconsciously I would have reacted to the fact that I just spit that much, like, and he stayed in character. He didn't break it, and not once. You didn't see, there was no facial expression as if he was reacting to it. So that's why I kind of almost want to see it again and see if that was on purpose. Like, could that be perceived as part of the scene? Like, was he supposed to do that?
I thought it was on purpose, because when he was doing it, he was being very, like, he was agitated at the fact that we were splitting from them, right? He's like, then do it on your own, like, and just, oh man, insane, man. But a big standout to me is, like you guys said, Angelica. Jesus Christ, when she did Satisfied, she was rapping fast and she sang like she was Beyonce, dude. I can't believe the talent that she has. Also, Aaron Burr, Leslie Odom Jr., Wait For It. That song, Wait For It, was absolutely insane. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite things about the show is what, Lin-Manuel's whole idea of parallels, like, his whole inspiration to making this a hip-hop show was when he read the Alexander Hamilton book. He read it and said, oh, this reminds me of, like, Tupac and Biggie's story. Oh, this could be a hip hop musical. Like, it wasn't really that he wanted to make a hip hop musical for the sake of being diverse and such. It was, I read the story and I can see the story of Tupac and Biggie in this. So I'm gonna do a hip hop musical, and then the parallels that, like, if you guys caught on to the musical style of the Schuyler sisters, where they were basically Destiny's Child, and so they were basically the parallels of Destiny's Child as the Schuyler sisters, and so each one of their styles was very popish. It was very this and that. Like even Eliza, a lot of her songs, as like long and flowy as they were, and very gentle and very caressing, a lot of her riffs were very pop riffs. So it was very like, this is my Destiny's Child, this is my Kelly Rowland, where Angelica was like the Beyonce, so
insane, man.
So
Yeah, it was just a great thing. Yeah, and like the guys were saying, besides the people playing these roles, the songs that they have, the songs that were written, and the cadence, the words, the way that the raps filled the songs, just genius, to make it make sense. Yeah.
How everything flowed together. A lot of music theater is broken scene where you have that dialogue and then you have a song maybe, and then you pull away, do a next scene, get the things off the set, have the next scene where it's a different setting, different group of characters. You have a show where you go from one song directly into the next song, and that's the next scene, and it just flows in. And the best part about all of that is how the cast brings it together. If you guys didn't notice, everyone in the show is always on stage doing something, whether they're singing or not. And that's crazy because you think like there's got to be the people behind the scenes, this and that. And every now and then there's maybe two people on stage, but for most of those song numbers, everyone in the cast is on stage dancing, handing over something, a piece of paper, moving a desk. They're all involved. And it's crazy to think how they flow into all these songs and they sound like they're not even winded,
Right. Yeah.
Like the last song of the first act is Nonstop, and Nonstop is almost 10 minutes long, and it's every character transitioning through their themes, talking to Alexander Hamilton, and they're all dancing at the same time, and that's a 10-minute number at the end of what was maybe an hour and a half, before the intermission. And so
Right.
they're all doing this last number full force, and it's not even a trace of being tired. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, man. There's so many things about that. Also, I don't know, Al, did you notice that there was literally no dialogue? I think the only bit of dialogue that was in this movie was when he was writing for George Washington when he was leaving. I don't think that was a rap or a song or anything. He was just reciting it like he was singing, but it wasn't like a song. But pretty much the entire show was just nonstop songs, like Brandon was saying.
Yeah, man. And it just, like you said, and it just lends to all of their abilities and how well they performed, put everything together, because it felt like they were speaking to you. Like I didn't feel like I was being sung to. Like I felt there was obviously certain performances that were obvious performances of a song, but yeah, to your point, now thinking about it as you say that, I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Everything was a performance throughout. But at certain points, I felt like I was being spoken to, I guess, because at that point I was so drawn in, like I was just listening. Like I wasn't like trying to decipher anything at that point. I was just listening. And that was when I realized how good the show was because I think it was an hour in, and I even looked at my clock just to realize that I was an hour in. I was like, wait, so like,
yeah.
And I think it was only because something happened in the house and I had to stop it that I realized that much time. So it was the whole every aspect about this. It's to your point earlier, like it made me want to go see it live to see how it would feel in that environment.
Absolutely, man. And Brandon, man, I'm going to ask you on this one, man. Is there anything about the musical that you didn't like? Because I find it pretty hard to find anything I didn't like. I think the one thing I didn't like was how long it was, but then it was necessary because it had to show this entire man's life and what he did in that life and, explain it pretty well with the rap and everything. Entertaining as all hell. So I didn't really find any real big errors in there. Brandon, yourself, anything that you didn't like about the...
To be frank, the music in the show, the choreography, everything was incredible. It was perfect. The only gripe I'm gonna have, and this isn't at anyone's fault, this is at a weird taping of an event where you're trying to catch all the moments, is sometimes the angles were a little weird. Like maybe someone was standing there and they tried to catch it and they moved away. So sometimes the camera angles were weird, but in terms of the musical itself, perfect.
Yeah. Al, man, how about yourself, man? You find anything that you didn't like about the show or anything?
I guess in a way I would have liked to have seen, and only because afterwards I looked more into what happened, would have been a little bit more, but then again, I understand it was about Hamilton, but seeing the repercussions of that duel.
Right.
And then only learning afterwards what happened as a result. Like, they touched on what Eliza did after in terms of that she developed an orphanage. But I would have liked to have seen, well, what happened to Burr? This was this guy's supposed friend at one point after the duel. What happened? Because like he alludes to it that they told him, yo, you better watch out. Or like they made reference that people were upset about the duel. But why were they upset?
Yeah.
Like, was it that, I mean, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more explanation about what happened as a result of the duel and him dying.
Right.
Like maybe some kind of a performance showing what resulted from it or what happened to somebody, because like kind of like in the beginning when they gave a quick summary of Hamilton's life up until the point that they introduced him.
Right.
Like maybe like a quick performance at the end saying what happened after. Because
Gotcha.
I would have liked to have known. Okay, well, now they built up to this big duel. What happened after? Obviously, he's dead, but he was a great man and a big person of importance to the country at that point. What
Absolutely.
happened, like after? Like I would. That's how minuscule of an issue it was,
Yeah.
because the perform. It just made me want to know that much.
Right.
That
Yeah.
I was just upset that it wasn't
I
there.
definitely Googled some stuff too, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
But
I was like,
but that's the
yeah.
point of the show.
Oh, absolutely. Because even me after first, I was like, why until I'm like 40 something years old do I know about Alexander Hamilton? Like, did we talk about this in social studies and I just didn't listen,
Okay, I thought I
But
was asleep.
it was incredible. But I did look into it and it said there were some things that were left out, like how prevalent and important slavery was in that time period, and how they didn't really mention that, even like Thomas Jefferson had slaves, and a lot of the ideas that came from Hamilton also kind of was used on the backs of slaves as well. So that's something I didn't really mention too much. And also something I learned also, Thomas Jefferson and Hamilton actually butt heads more than Aaron Burr and Hamilton. So that's something interesting also. So it actually made me want to look into it and read it, which is interesting because I never before yesterday didn't care a thing about Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah.
So just nuts, man. Such a great thing. So my last question to you guys is, meaning that this is a Broadway show, but we saw it on Disney Plus. Are you guys considering this one of your top movies of this year?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, me too,
Yeah.
man. I think honestly, if we had did this shit last week, it would have made my top three, man.
Oh, hell yeah.
I think Disney is going to see the numbers on this one and buy some more musicals. Because, I mean,
Oh.
the truth be told, Broadway's closed until 2021 as of right now, and there are a lot of shows that haven't seen multimedia commercial success, or seen a big screen. Phantom of the Opera, Les Mis, they've all been on the big screen, and they've even in musical form, they've been on the big screen. This is the first time in a while that a show of this caliber has been put out to the masses, where you didn't have to buy a seat to the theater or anything like that. So I think this is a great chance for Disney to go and buy Wicked, because that's another huge show that not a lot of people have seen and isn't widely available.
Yeah.
This guy right here, and I want to see Wicked and Lion King.
Yeah.
And to your point, I think they are, because right before we got on, I was reading, it drove their membership up 74%.
And they took off their free
Jesus.
trials.
Yeah. Yeah, they saw a 74% increase in Disney Plus subscriptions over this weekend because of Hamilton.
Wow, man.
Believe it.
So
That's insane.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
So I think you have a point there, Brandon.
All right, man. So listen, man, last overall review score, grade, whatever you want to call it. Brandon, what are you giving this Hamilton?
Stop watching this right now. Go watch it, then come back.
Al, yourself, man, what you rating this one, man?
Kid, I mean, I don't want to give a 10 out of 10, but I would give it as close to that as I can, because, yeah, you have to, yeah, man. Even if you don't think you like Broadway plays, watch this and just think of it as a movie, because that's how it will feel.
Absolutely, man. For me, my rating scale is like one of those need to see, should see. You need to see Hamilton. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're into Broadway shows or not. You need to see Hamilton. You don't like history, you need to see Hamilton. You don't like movies, you need to see Hamilton. You don't have Disney Plus, go get Disney Plus. Yeah, it's definitely, you need to see Hamilton, man. This movie is incredible. This Broadway show is just phenomenal, and for me, it's even more incredible that it exceeded the hype, which is insane to me. All this hype I've heard of Hamilton for the last 5 years of my life living in New York, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'm the sucker. Yeah, guys. So listen, man, that's our Hamilton review for Disney Plus right there. That movie will probably end up in our top 5 for the year because it was so incredible. Listen, I don't know how many movies are coming out for the rest of 2020, so we'll see how it ends up. So listen, I asked the guys for something that I haven't asked them for since we did this podcast, and it's something I was very interested in knowing is what's their top 10, of all time movies. And it's funny because I've known Brandon all his life. I've known Al for a majority of my life. And and I was like, oh, I wonder what their top 10 is. I had to figure out mine. I had to key it in, and I had some movies fall off the list, come back on the list. And so I'm very interested in seeing this. So I wanted to go like in the bottom five first, just to kind of get this kind of moving for us, because it usually takes a long time to do these top tens and stuff. So for the bottom five for me, I'm going to tell you right now, I got Matrix, the first one. I got Die Hard with a Vengeance, Avengers, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and Captain America Civil War at number 6. So those are my bottom 5 out of my top 10 movies of my life. And those are based on like how many times I've watched them, how many times I'm planning on watching them again, how great I thought I was, a movie experience that I had with them. For each one of those movies, I could list off an experience. Like Matrix, I remember seeing it with Al and leaving the theaters like, what the hell did we just see? Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, I could watch that movie over and over again. I love that movie. Die Hard with a Vengeance. I actually fought with Die Hard 1 and Die Hard with a Vengeance. And Die Hard with a Vengeance won out because of all the little tricks and stuff that happened in that movie. So I definitely love that one. Avengers speaks for itself. That movie shocked the hell out of me when it came out. And I don't know. I don't know if you guys have any of those in your top 5 or that's in your bottom 5 or not even mentioned at all. Al, talk to me, man. What do you have in your bottom 5 of top 10 movies?
Bottom 5 of my top 10, I have Born Identity.
Okay.
I have Man of Steel. I have Die Hard and John Wick.
Oh, John Wick, that's right.
Yeah, man.
Oh, that was a good one. John Wick 3 was fucking crazy.
Oh,
John
forget
Wick,
it.
which John Wick you have on there?
The first one. That's
First one,
it, yeah. Yeah, man.
Caught me off guard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those movies. I'm telling you, it's one of, like you said, it's one of those movies. I mean, there were in making the list, movies come back in, go back out, and
Right.
at the end, one of the reasons why I had to put it's my last one on the top 10 was because when 3 came out, and I knew 3 was coming out, I made an effort to go buy this one, and was able to find it as a combo pack, so I was able to get 1 and 2.
Right.
But like it was to the point where I went to 2 different stores to try to find it.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, when you make that kind of an effort to find a movie so that you can own it, yeah, that's got to be it's in there. So that's why I had to put it back in there. But the other ones are just like memories of like Die Hard. That you Yippee-ki-yay and remembering when I went to the theater and saw it, Born Identity, like, and forget it. And I don't know if I said Man of Steel. That just reinvigorated my love for Superman. Like, even though, I mean, because we saw a couple of remakes of Superman, but it was nothing really. I mean, we kept having to go back to Christopher Reeve as Superman to remember a decently made Superman movie. And this one just made me proud again to say, yeah, no, I'm a Superman fan, not Batman. Like because it was that well made, in my opinion. I know it's been bashed by others, but by me, it's in my top 10.
Yeah, I got you, man. Brandon, I hope you don't make fun of me for having Civil War in my bottom 5, but
no, not at all.
I was surprised it was in my bottom 5. I'm like, Civil War.
I maybe had 20 different movies on this list and took 30 different movies off this list. I don't really know. So my bottom 5, which I don't really know it was even my bottom 5, just not higher than 15. I don't know. I would say my bottom would be Jurassic Park, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Oh, yes.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Right.
The Prestige.
Yes, is another good one, yeah.
And then I would have to say Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Wow, yeah, that one was crazy when we left the theaters, man.
I think that was my favorite Captain America movie.
Oh, man. All right. All right, so then we'll get right now into our top five right here. So we'll go with the 5, 4, 3, 2s, and 1s right there. So for me, my number 5 movie for myself was The Count of Monte Cristo. I am a big revenge guy. I am big on, oh, you did me like that. Now I'm gonna have to do you like this. Oh, The Count of Monte Cristo is so amazing. Some lines in there. One of the lines is he finds his ex-wife is with another person now, and it happened to be his friend. And she said something to him, oh, if you were my ex-husband or my boyfriend or whatever, she's like, I would never forget you. And he kisses her hand. He goes, you would only forget me in about 3 months. Because that's how long it took.
Oh, wow.
It's just so crazy, and all the stuff that he does just to get revenge, and at the end the fight, and I just love the Count of Monte Cristo, man. I thought I was gonna rank it up higher, but yeah, number 5 for me, Count of Monte Cristo. Brandon, what's your number 5 there for you, brother?
Toy Story.
Okay.
I love me some Pixar.
Absolutely, man. Al, your 5?
My 5 was Infinity War.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's an incredible movie, man.
Yeah, it was a good movie. It set a lot of stuff up, and what got me was the ending. Like, I know a lot of movies have shock endings and everything, but that was one of the few times where I had to look at y'all just to say, like,
it's over.
That's the end of the movie. What happened?
And what's crazy is we all knew to expect that it was going to happen at the end, but we still didn't expect it to happen at the end.
Kid, yeah.
It was like we got 10 minutes left.
Oh man, yeah.
Oh man. So let me get you guys with my number 4 movie for my top 10, Gladiator with Russell Crowe. Oh, that movie had me in tears at the end. I was cheering, I was rooting, and then when I hear all the background stuff about how this movie was made literally on the spot. They had no script, most of it. Russell Crowe wanted to quit like 4 or 5 times. Dude, and that movie is so incredible, so genius. It won Best Picture. I remember I only saw it because it won Best Picture, and I'm like, why did it win Best Picture? I never even heard of this. I watched it, and I was like, that same day I bought it. No. Yeah. That is up there, top 4 for me, man. Brandon, your top 4?
Top 4, Inception.
Yeah. Yes. Anything about it that stood out for you that makes you like it so much?
It's just the way this is one of those things for me where like the story and the concept were so awesome, but then it all tied together with the music that made it even better.
Yeah.
It was a full package.
Christopher Nolan, man.
Christopher Nolan and Hans Zimmer.
Tenet. Al, what's your number 4, man?
Star Wars. A New Hope. Number 4, A New Hope. Yeah, man. Is the one that started it all for me in terms of like sci-fi and everything, and just being in there and liking the story behind it other than just the visuals.
Gotcha. And my number 3 matches up with Al's number 5 there. Infinity War. Nothing will ever top that feeling in the theater. From beginning to end, the excitement, it just felt like that movie just went from the minute that it started with Thor scene, then it went into New York, from New York to the spacecraft, from the spacecraft to the Guardians of the Galaxy. It was just nonstop, something happening, so many crazy scenes. I remember the theater losing it when Thor came down to Wakanda with Groot and Rocket on his shoulder. Forget it, man. Oh, man. And then just so many, like Al said, the memorable scenes when people started disappearing and turning into dust, just everybody was like, oh. And I remember people losing it when Spider-Man left. Oh, my goodness. Infinity War, number 3 for me, man. Yeah. Brandon, what is your number 3 movie? Oh, Brandon, I think we lost you, kid. I'm on the mic.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Nah, did you mute yourself? Maybe.
Let's see. Uh-oh. Brandon's gonna have to
Nah.
write his in.
Nah.
Oh, let me see. Brandon's gonna text me what his number 3 is.
Is there a mute
Oh
on
my
your mic?
goodness.
Maybe you hit it.
Oh, The
Oh.
Dark Knight. He put the movie poster on his phone. So for the Brandon's number 3 is The Dark Knight, which I can only assume because it was goddamn incredible.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
Al, man, what about you, man?
Yeah, for my number 3, Godfather, the first one. It's long,
Uh,
it's
yeah,
it's drawn out, but the way it tells that story, the way it goes through the history of the family and lures you into just enjoying that whole time period. It's definitely one. I mean, the way it sets everybody up, there's not a weak character in that movie.
gotcha.
Um, yeah, there's not. I mean, obviously you know who the bad guys are, but you like them so much, you're still rooting for them.
Right.
It's yeah, man. It's most movies have one or two characters that'll carry the movie. They all carry their scenes. They all carry their roles. They did. It's one of the best movies I've seen.
Awesome, man. Yeah, man. Now we're getting into the number 2s, man. My number 2 movie, my top 10 of 2, is going to be Seven, which is this like drama, horror, detective, crazy, just insane movie. I could watch that movie over and over. It's a little sadistic sometimes, but at the same time, what an incredible movie! Just keeps me entertained every time. I know the ending of the movie, and at the ending, my heart's beating faster. My hands are getting sweaty. Like I don't know what's about to happen, and that's how good it is. Even after like the 15,000th time I've seen it.
Hmm.
Uh, Brandon, how about yourself, man? Let me see a little poster there. What's your number 2 movie, Brandon? Endgame, Avengers
Wow.
Endgame for Brandon. Wow, Brandon, that's insane.
Uh,
All right, and Al, man, what's your number 2?
My number 2, I'm gonna go with a tie because you really could interject either one. There would be either
Uh,
Batman Begins or Dark Knight.
gotcha.
Yeah, man. Because both, I mean, the first one just for how it brought Batman back because the first
Hmm.
Batman with Michael Keaton and everything was good. Batman Returns was good, but then they started getting crazy and ridiculous. I mean, always
Yeah,
every movie that came out had a different Batman. The villains were getting more ridiculous after one after
wonky,
the other.
crazy. Yeah.
It became yeah, the Batman movies became a joke.
Hmm.
And this one brought it back again to respectability. It was more realistic. It seemed like okay, this was a Batman that actually probably could exist
Right.
given the right bankroll like Bruce Wayne is supposed to have. So
Mm.
it brought it back, and then just the performances in Dark Knight, like it
Oh,
didn't let up.
yeah, yeah. No.
Sometimes the sequel drops off, and you start losing interest in the franchise and the series. This one just made you even more interested because of the performances that were given, especially by Heath Ledger as Joker. So
Absolutely.
yeah, man.
Yeah, man. So that's your one, two. Batman. It begins in Dark Knight. Wow, this is a
Well,
top
no, that's
movie.
my two. Yeah, tie for
Oh,
two
you
because
did either one. Yeah.
I
And
couldn't
I
decide
like
which one.
Die Hard with a Vengeance. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't decide between the two. So
Yeah, man. And so we'll go right into the number ones right there. And it looks like number ones. We all have them in our top tens. That's The Dark Knight for me, number one movie. I literally saw that movie in the theaters 5 times the first weekend that it came out. I felt ridiculous, and I loved it every time. I then went to see it 2 weeks later when it came out on Blu-ray. I just left it in the damn PlayStation and let it repeat itself. I would go to sleep with The Dark Knight playing in the background. That's how many times I've watched that movie, and it's still incredible. From the opening scene when that window crashes open and the guys fly over from the robbing the bank. It's just The Dark Knight is just everything to me, man. That movie just defines what a blockbuster is, changed the way that cinema thinks of comic book movies. So it's just The Dark Knight for me, number one, man. Brandon, show me a picture of number one for you, man. Man of Steel is number one?
What?
Wow.
Fix your mic because I want to hear you with this one.
Now I need to what the hell? Number one movie Brandon ever seen is Man of Steel.
That's right.
Insane. That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
We're
the
gonna-
best breakdown. For B's part, I'm going to play in John Campia. If anybody who wants to hear John Campia defend Man of Steel as to why it's a great movie, go watch his breakdown as to the Man of Steel and why it's a good movie. I fully agree with his breakdown.
It's got to be the Kevin Costner part. Hey, Al, man, finish us off for the night, brother. What's your number one movie of
My
Al's
number
life?
Kid, it's Matrix. It's kid. For me, it's there's so much innuendo. There's so much little nuances to that movie. To the fact, there's so many things that you don't pick up on until you've watched the movie 50 times. Right. It's so good. Like this was one that I just recently caught up on, and I had to watch a YouTube breakdown. Everything references the Matrix code, like to the point of like they even try to make it so that the rain on the back of the car falls the way they showed the Matrix code falling, and the green tint to the movie. Kid, there's so many little things here and there.
Genius the way these guys do that, man.
Every time I watch it now, as old as that movie is, it reminds me of how we felt leaving when we left the movie theater when we first saw it. And that's now. And I still feel the way watching that movie because there is so much potential. That's why I was kind of let down with 2 and 3, but 1 definitely holds it in terms of what that opened up in terms of possibilities of a world and a universe, since everything's now its own universe.
Absolutely, man. And listen, fellas, this has been amazing to do the top 10. So now I know what to riff you guys on, especially with Man of Steel as number 1. Brandon, we're going to definitely talk about that one. And listen to everyone who's listening or watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast app, man. We thank you again. We apologize for any kind of sound quality issues or anything like that we have. It's because we're doing this on Skype. Of course, once things get back to normal with this whole coronavirus thing, we'll be recording together as what we used to do. But we thank you guys for listening, watching, subscribing, and everything. So listen, if you have any comments about our top 10 or Hamilton, just go ahead and leave a comment below on our YouTube. Or if you're on our podcast listening, email us at therealfanreview@gmail.com or go to our website, therealfanreview.com. Listen, we appreciate everyone listening. Our subscribers numbers are going up. Our listeners are going up as always. We got fans in France. France, we love you. We got family and friends in California listening. California, thank you. And all over New York, man. We thank you for listening to us. We appreciate you. We're signing off here from New York. We got the unimaginable man in the chair, Al.
Have a good night, everybody.
We got Brandon Burr, sir, saying goodnight with a wave. And I'm saying goodnight to you guys. I thank you for listening. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a good night.